The nation's governors yesterday proposed national education standards to replace the state-by-state systems that are now in place around the country. Texas is one of two states not signing on, claiming they're fine on their own. Well, the man you're about to meet helps write that state's curriculum, and his goal is to shift it toward the political right. And wherever you live, your student may soon learn from his lessons, as Dan Harris now reports.
You're doing awesome, Doug. This is
Don McLeroy is a chipper suburban dentist, a former college cheerleader, and a self-described Christian fundamentalist whose views on history, politics, and science may well impact what your child learns in school.
My worldview is definitely a Christian worldview, kind of an orthodox biblical worldview. I believe the world's created, man's created in the image of God, that man has fallen, and those things really impact my whole service.
McLeroy serves on the Texas Board of Education, where he's part of a powerful bloc of Christian conservatives who critics say are imposing their religious and political views on what public school students learn on subjects ranging from history to evolution.
Who am I, a dentist, to question the authority of all the giant consensus?
This is not just some Texas sideshow. Because the state of Texas buys so many textbooks, publishers often tailor the materials that go out all over the country to the standards that McLeroy and his colleagues have set.
You have been quoted as saying that the amount of power you have at times boggles your mind.
Well, I did say that. I wished I hadn't said that, but I did say that because it is pretty influential.
For the first time.
Right now, the board is working on the social studies guidelines, and here are some examples of things the conservative bloc has pushed through. They've required that textbooks mention pillars of the conservative movement like the moral majority, the National Rifle Association, and the Contract with America.
God bless America.
With no liberal counterbalance. They've insisted that the words of Jefferson Davis, president of the Confederacy during the Civil War, be considered alongside those of Abraham Lincoln. And they have inserted language suggesting that the actions of the infamous anti-communist Senator Joseph McCarthy were justified. McLeroy at one point scrawled a note saying recent scholarship showed that McCarthy had been vindicated.
Now, I called a McCarthy scholar the other day who said that's just simply not true.
Okay. When I wrote that, it was at the last minute.
While McLeroy is backing away from that one, he is unapologetic about correcting what he sees as a liberal bias in American textbooks.
To me, it's just providing accurate history, and my observation is the left doesn't even know they have biased it because they just think that's what it is. All we've done in Texas by adding in Newt Gingrich, the conservative movement, is the fact that, and the resurgence right there with Ronald Reagan, all we are doing is reflecting what's actually happened in the country.
Audience, that helps us.
But critics say that McLeroy and the conservative Christian bloc have consistently overreached. While they tried and failed to remove any mention of Thurgood Marshall, the first black Supreme Court justice, and Cesar Chavez, the famous labor organizer, they did successfully remove the author of the children's book Brown Bear, What Do You See?, Bill Martin Jr., because they mistook him for another Bill Martin who wrote a book critical of capitalism.
That was embarrassing. You know, we made a mistake. Somebody had pointed that out, and they didn't do their research.
People are really latching onto it as an example of reckless zeal.
Well, it was embarrassing.
Where things get really heated, though, is on issues like equal rights.
So don't tell me, okay, I'm going to stop. I'm getting out of control. I'm sorry.
McLeroy angered many people when he said this.
For instance, the women's right to vote. The women didn't vote on it. The men did. The men passed it for the women. Eventually, the Civil Rights Act, it took a majority vote. In other words, the minorities were not able to do it by themselves. It took a majority it took the majority to do it for the minority.
Does that diminish the role of minorities who suffered, went to prison, were beaten, and even killed to get the Civil Rights Act passed?
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to diminish all the roles that everybody else did. It's just stating an obvious, stating a fact that it's not really stated, that in our form of government, it was the men that gave the women the right to vote.
Another hot area, the conservative bloc's current push to emphasize the Christian faith of America's founding fathers.
What do you say to people who say that you are in essence, imposing your political and religious views on school children.
We're a political body. We have to make political decisions. As far as imposing, I was elected. I told people what I believed in and what motivated me, and so my goal as an elected official is, is to speak up and do that.
McLeroy will not be on the board for long. He was just voted out of office, but he does have his seat for the rest of this year.
Will that change the way you operate? Will you soften up in any way?
Oh, I can't see softening. I can't see changing anything. We'll just,
Full
I'll
steam
take my
ahead.
votes.
Full steam ahead.
Yes, sir.
And what you do between now and when you leave office is going to have a long-term impact.
That's fine. Yes, sir.
I'd like to call for a show of hands. All those in
By the time
favor of
McLeroy
the
leaves
motion
office,
before
the
us
social
as
studies
to
standards will be in
monotheism,
place
Judaism,
and
Christianity,
impacting textbooks
standards
all over
and
America
raising your
for the
hand.
next 10 years. For Nightline, this is Dan Harris in Austin, Texas.